in the past, we have engaged on quite a number of bills in Ghana. They include the Ghana Deposit Protection Bill in 2016, the Securities Industries Bill in 2016, the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Bill in the same year of 2016, Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill in 2017. We did the Standard for Automatic Exchange of Financial Accounts Information Bill in 2018, Witness Protection Bill in 2018, of course, Right to Information Bill 2019, the Companies Bill in 2019. This year, we've been doing the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Ghana Bill, and of course, this Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana Bill. And we use a combination of physical workshops, webinars, and in-house trainings as the platforms for which we provide these bill symposiums and bill engagements since 2016. So for physical workshops, we organize the workshops, people are physically present, and then, of course, they pay a fee that covers facilitation and those basic ones. Of course, as an organization that is not for profit, it comes at highly subsidized rates. Of course, webinars like these, in these times of COVID-19, we also organize around bills, and we are able to come to various organizations that think that they have large numbers of people who symposium series and our bill engagements. So why do we go about organizing the bill symposium series? First of all, as an organization, we track all bills that are in Parliament. So every piece of draft legislation that gets to Parliament, recognize that the legislative decisions and outcomes of Parliament affect operations and sustainability of institutions, and we cannot run away from that. And if it does, then as a civil society organization, we have a mandate to help and support institutions and individuals on these subject matters. Now, we have a case in point where in 2016, the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions bill in Ghana was passed. And having been passed, we recognized that, and of course, passed in the same year, both laws that gets passed, can have a very major toll on industries if they do not know and prepare themselves adequately for it. Now, it is instructive to note for those of you who are joining who are not from Ghana that these laws combined were the basis for which hundreds of financial institutions had to be collapsed in Ghana as part of the banking sector clean up. Now, the Bill Symposium series, again, is aimed at helping institutions to keep an eye on draft legislations that are before Parliament or recently passed, and it's also to afford enough time for institutions to put in place why we do this for draft and when they get immediately passed, because it is important that organizations will put their house in order even before the law gets fully operational. That way it allows for preparedness. It allows for real preparedness, and everybody is able to benefit very, very well from the law as has been passed by the legislature. Again, this Bill Symposium series initiative is targeted mainly at business associations, corporate Ghana, state-owned enterprises, professional bodies, non-governmental organizations, and the likes who have seen this initiative are very relevant to their work and have usually joined our Bill Symposium series, particularly their CEOs, chief operating officers, their chief executive officers, their heads of legal, human resource, operations departments have all in the past joined the Bill Symposium series, depending on the kind of bill that is being considered. This particular Bill Symposium series webinar is simply an introductory session on the Chartered Institute of Marketing Bill, which has just been passed by Parliament, and it is to give you some basic information about the bill, what it contains and all of that. And it is intended to serve as the basis for those of you who may want some more intense fee-paying workshops, including arrangements for in-house trainings, which will have bring together members of parliament, parliamentary researchers from our Parliamentary Network Africa, legal and professional experts in marketing, who will explain the impact of the bill to your industry and to your profession. End this particular slide by saying that attendees to these workshops, physical workshops, in-house workshops and trainings are provided with follow-on support through the creation of networks to engage Parliament on bills and to receive real-time updates on these bills. So while the bills are in Parliament, we provide real-time updates to those who attend our workshops. We create with them a network where we're able to engage parliamentary committees and the institution of Parliament on matters that network members find relevant, even as Parliament considers the bill. Now, let me now move you to this web. I call it the mysterious web. This mysterious web, or, the web, is simply how a bill becomes a law in the Parliament of Ghana. Now, this engagement on how a bill becomes a law walks us through what we can classify as the 13 stages that laws are made through the parliamentary process in Ghana. The stages that are colored in white or have white backgrounds are the ones that relate to Parliament. Those ones that have light blue, sky blue, that shade, are aspects that do not relate necessarily to Parliament. It involves other institutions of states like the President assenting to the bill and what have you. And this is the stages, or these are the stages of the lawmaking process that in our tracking of legislations and bills in Parliament, we engage with all of these stages. So from when the bill gets laid in Parliament, which is stage 1, right through to its first reading, which is also on the same day when it gets referred to a committee, stage 3, when the committee sits and engage with various stakeholders at stage 4, and when the committee presents its report to plenary at stage 5, then the second reading stage takes place at plenary, where the report of the committee is discussed, and then of course stage 7, where the consideration of the bill is done, clause by clause consideration of the bill, where every clause within the bill is actually looked at by all members of Parliament together. And of course, it gets to stage 8 when the bill gets passed. Because this is not the main focus, I really do not want to bore you with details of this mysterious web. But of course, once it is passed, it gets transmitted to His Excellency the President, and then stage 9 takes place where the President accents to it, and then it becomes a law. Stage 12 and 13, it becomes operational. But if the President refuses to accent to it, as our Constitution mandates, there are other processes that goes on. Like I said, this is really not the main focus of this, and so I will hold on here. At this stage, let me ask if there are any questions, comments. If you can hear me very well, clearly, please give me a shout in the chat box. Let me see that. Okay, I guess we are all well and good to still continue. So I take it from where I left off. Now, having considered the process of how a bill becomes a law, let me now take you straight into the content of the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management, Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana bill, which is what we are considering, and what it actually entails, what it portends, what it speaks to, what the contents are, how the Parliament considered them, and what kind of changes were effected by the Parliament of Ghana, even in its consideration on passing this particular bill. All right, so first of all, we need to look at the legislative footprint. Where did this start from? Where did Parliament begin, and where did they get to by way of the passage? So this particular bill started, or the bill as has been passed, started in Parliament on the 30th of January when the bill was first laid, and then subsequently it was referred to the Committee on Education, Parliament's Committee on Education, on the same day, the 30th of January. Then in February, Parliament actually engaged or the Parliamentary Committee engaged various stakeholders in this. Some of the stakeholders engaged at the Ministry of Education, which was actually the government agency or the executive branch that was promoting the bill, the Office of the Attorney General for purposes of drafting and the legalese of the day, the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, which is the essentially the sponsors of the bill, so to speak, were also engaged by the Parliamentary Committee in doing this. Then on February 21 this year, the bill came to Parliament by way of a report from the committee. The committee's report could not be considered until June 3rd this year, when it was considered. The clause by clause engagements on the bill was done. All the other aspects of the bill were accepted too. And then voila, on the 4th of June 2020, Parliament passed the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana bill after it has been read the third time in Parliament. So these were the legislative footprints, the various stages that it went to. So what is the object of this bill and what is the background to it? And the purpose of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Bill is to establish the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana as a regulatory body to set standards for the marketing profession in Ghana. Parliament, in working on the bill, took the following into considerations. A few of the considerations that Parliament actually looked at were: one, the fact that the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, CIMG, has since its inception carved a positive image for itself through effective contribution towards the creation of marketing awareness and training. But despite the fact that the CIMG has existed since 1981, it has no mandate to regulate the practice of marketing profession. It has no mandate to set or control standards and to enforce ethical practice. And of course, the fact that the emergence of a digital age has changed the dynamics and the complexities of marketing, for which reason Ghana not having its marketing profession properly regulated or currently regulated was a problem. And Parliament considered these even as it fast-tracked the passage of the bill. Now, what is the content of this bill? So the bill has 53 clauses, which have been arranged under 7 broad areas. The 7 broad areas are as follows: 1, establishment of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana; 2, the governance of the institute, so how the institute will be governed. It speaks about membership and qualifications. It speaks to registration of members. It also goes further to talk about administration of the institute. There are issues relating to financial provisions. Miscellaneous provisions are also included in the broad areas, the 7 broad areas that I allude to so far as the law is concerned. And of course, there are 3 schedules that are within the law. There is a section on disciplinary committee and procedures for proceedings of the disciplinary committee. There is the issue of meetings of the institute and how they will be regulated, professional misconduct, and how that will also be dealt with. It's important to note that the final act that gets accented to by Parliament, by His Excellency the President, may have either more or less or the same as 53 clauses. Of course, when bills are passed in Parliament and they become acts, they move from being clauses to sections. So they may have more than these 53 sections, depending on the cleanup process that goes on in Parliament. When laws are passed, the Parliament of Ghana goes through the process of cleaning up the law, and making it reflect all of the changes that went on in Parliament. We have our own tracked version which shows the changes, but of course the sacrosanct perfect one is the one that gets accented to, which is actually the law. Now, let's look at the section that relates to establishment of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, CIMG. The bill establishes the institute as a body corporate or corporate organization with perpetual succession, which means that it is in continuity. It provides for the acquisition of property by the institute, and of course, in situations where the institute is hindered, where there is hindrance to acquisition of property, the state may acquire such properties on behalf of the institute using the State Lands Act, Act 125, and this has been spelled out clearly in the law. The object of the institute and its functions have also been provided for. There are provisions that are made up for meetings of the institute and how they can be called. All of these things are enshrined in this particular portion of the law. Then we go to the that there will be a council institute, and it spells out the following in relation to the council. So in the council, the law spells out its functions. It talks about the tenure of office of council members. It speaks to meetings of the council. It talks about disclosure of interest by council members. It speaks to the allowances that are provided and the terms and conditions that comes to it, the establishment of committees of the council, including the establishment of a disciplinary committee. All of these things are clearly outlined in the newly passed Chartered Institute of Marketing bill. Of course, it also makes provision for policy directives from the Minister of Education, whose ministry is actually the supervisory ministry for this institute. Let's go to the issue of membership and qualifications. The bill categorizes membership of the institute, and it requires for enrollment into various categories. The requirements are very well detailed. The categories are listed. Some of the categories include either one is admitted as a fellow, a full member, an associate member, an emerging member, a graduate member, a student member, an honorary member, or a corporate member. These are the various categorizations that the law actually provides for. There are restrictions under the law on the use of the title chartered marketer, which becomes the title that one gets to use upon being properly certified by the institute. So these restrictions have been dealt with just so that people do not get to abuse them. Registration of members, the next section that we want to quickly look at. Now, the application process and requirements for the institute to issue a certificate of registration to a successful applicant have all been provided for in the law. The law also goes on to make provisions for rights that are conferred by registration and the conditions under which a member's registration may be suspended, may be cancelled. All of these things have been specified under the law. There is also provisions under the law that requires the institute to establish, keep, and maintain a register of its members. So all those that have been accredited or certified by the institute or members of the institute, there is a provision that requires that the list is kept, maintained. There is the conditions under which the registrar of the institute shall revoke the name of a member from the register of the institute are also provided for, as well as provisions for the restoration of a member whose membership has been previously revoked or he or she has been removed. There is a call on the council in the law to give a member at least 30 days notice of its intention to suspend or cancel the registration of that member, with the right of the member to appeal to the High Court if dissatisfied by the decision. So all of these things are enshrined beautifully in the law. Now let me move to the area relating to administration of the institute. On administration of the institute, the law makes provision for the appointment of certain persons or officers, and it actually provides also for their functions. And the following officers have been listed in the law: the president of the institute, the vice president of the institute, the secretary, the treasurer, the registrar have all been listed, and their functions have also been clearly spelled out in the law. Provisions are also made for the appointment of other staff by the council, including transfers or secondments of other public officers to the institute from other public institutions that exist. And then, of course, the law makes provisions for the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana to engage the services of advisors and to collaborate with other bodies in the performance of its functions. All of these have been allowed in the law. That moves me straight to some of the financial provisions that have been stipulated in the newly passed Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana bill. So the bill was very detailed on speaking to the sources of finance for the institute, the borrowing powers of the institute. It made provisions on bank accounts that can be maintained by the institute. All of these things are spelled out clearly in the law. It also makes provisions for payment of fees for enrollment as a member and the due dates for which annual subscriptions will have to be paid. All of these are provided for in the law. The law speaks to maintaining accounts of the institute, and the audit processes applicable to the institute have also been spelled out, as well as the submission of the annual report of the institute by the leadership, the council of the institute, to the annual general meeting of the institute, how the institute gets to report to the Ministry of Education, and of course, how the ministry will onward submit the report of the institute, including its accounts and all of that, to Parliament, have all been detailed in the law. Now, this moves me to the final section that speaks to the miscellaneous provisions that are enshrined in the law. The law makes provisions for the custody and use of the common seal of the institute. It has been spelled out clearly in the law. 4 broad areas of offenses and penalties that are applicable have been detailed in the law. And here, the law goes on to further detail what happens when such offenses are committed by organizations that are partnerships or even organizations that are body corporates, and who is liable for those punishments when they infringe upon the law, or the organizations infringe upon the law. The law makes provisions to enable the minister responsible for education to make regulations on the advice of the council. And these regulations will have to come to Parliament in the form of legislative instruments, or LIs, that gets presented to Parliament. This section on, the area of miscellaneous provisions also speaks to some terms that have been used in the bill, which have been defined. So there are many terms. I just decided to highlight a few. Marketing has been defined as pertains to its usage in the bill. Professional misconduct, public interest, and many others have all been defined in the newly passed Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana bill. Transitional provisions, as well as what pertains to issues of registers of marketing professionals in use before the coming into force of the Act, are also dealt with. So the law clearly spells out what happens to people who are already on the register of the CIMG, even before the coming into force of the law, the bylaws of the CIMG, and those other things that are applicable. What happens to them now that the law has been passed? Those transitional provisions, those movements, in the era of a new law, have also all been clearly spelled out in the law. So on this note, I would like to wrap up. What have we been able to achieve here? We have given you a summary of the new law that has been passed by Parliament, and we hope that it has been worth your while. We hope that it has given you a clearer indication of what Parliament has done, the timelines within which it did, and how you can consider them to be applicable to the work that you do as a marketer or as an interested person. We have given the opportunity for you to send in your questions, and we'll do well to provide answers to them. Make sure that your questions have names and your organization also stated on them, so that we can be able to address those questions effectively. When this webinar is over, we'll be sending you a post-webinar questionnaire via email, and it's imperative that you do us the honors of filling them out. The reason why this is important, even if you also you were registered but were not unable to attend the webinar, we still create and treat you that once you receive the questionnaire, and once you have received the video, which we'll be sharing with you because you registered, do well to go through and provide us the feedback. These feedback and the information you provide us will allow us to provide you with follow-on engagements, the benefit of follow-on engagements, because you were part of this webinar, and it's important so that you don't miss out on the things that happens in Parliament. For those of you who may want even more information on Parliament beyond just the bill and this webinar, including some of the areas of our operations as was stipulated at the beginning of this presentation of mine, we will also do well to provide you with same once you are able to give us the feedback through the webinar. Now we will go ahead to notify you when there are information on detailed training workshops that are going to go on so far as this bill is concerned, physical trainings, online trainings, and what have you. And if you are interested, you may want to join and encourage your colleagues to also join in there. And last but definitely not least, One of the ways that you can continue to engage with us so that you can understand what happens in Parliament and you can be notified of such legislations when they get to Parliament, as well as the other things we do, including even subscriptions to our parliamentary newspaper, is to connect with us on our various social media platforms. Very, very necessary. And what are these social media platforms? As I say thank you to you, I want to hint you on these social media platforms. Parliamentary Network Africa is the name that you can search and like or follow us on Facebook. On Twitter, you can go to @PN Africa Watch. PN standing for Parliamentary Network, and then Africa, and then Watch. So one word, @PN Africa Watch. You can reach us on there, or connect with us on our website, where you can have litany of information on the work that we do, even as it relates to bills that we also track. Our website, www.parliamentafrica.com. And so on that note, let me thank you very, very much for making time to join us in this webinar. We hope that the information that we have provided have been worth your while. Like I said, we'll be sharing this video. Take time to go through it again if you want, and if you need further information, do well to contact us. We'll be more than happy to provide you with information, because that is what we do so far as parliamentary information is concerned. My name is Sami Obey, and on behalf of the team here at Parliamentary Network Africa, I wish to thank you all immensely for joining us. Until we meet again on another webinar, please be good, keep safe. If you can, stay home like I am doing. If not, please always keep safe. Thank you very, very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.